My campaign is basically about bringing the community back together and working together to solve our problems, so that we can lift everybody up and that everybody has a chance. Has a chance at the opportunities that my kids had. You know, it's a really good town to live in, you know that. And I just want to keep it that way and keep it getting better all the time. So it's not about political parties, it's just about lifting everybody up and building community again. Because with all this that I've seen this year, that's fallen apart. I was approached. I was minding my own business, and I got several phone calls from different people, and then I got a call from the head of the local GOP, Jeff Mayfield, and said, would you run for office? So apparently there was an article in the newspaper that said the GOP hadn't run anybody in like over 6 years. And some locals were like, boy, we really need a voice. We really need somebody who can reason, somebody who's got some creative solutions to things, because I always try to find creative solutions. And they approached me about a week before the deadline. And I said, don't you have anybody else? Because I'm really busy, and I'm not a politician. And they said, well, we're looking at other people, but we only have a week, and can you let us know? And so every day I'd get on the phone and I'd say, did you find anybody? And I'm like, nope. So the day of the deadline, I said, well, if you haven't found anybody, I'll run, because somebody's got to step up to the plate. So apparently different people in the city had called the GOP and said, have you seen this girl? We don't know her. We read her editorials. Some people did know me, though. They figured out who I was. That's how they got my phone number. And they said, we read her editorials. We kind of sort of know how she thinks, but maybe you should call her. And so independently, different people called, and then Jeff approached me. And part of the reason I said yes is I had read a book a while ago called Politics is Local. And it's got a different bent. It's not by a conservative at all, but it's how to preserve or how to promote change on a local level, because that's where it all starts. And if we want to keep Harrisonburg viable and thriving, we've got to right the ship, you know. I mean, the poverty rate's high. It's over 60%. 40% of the population is supporting the rest, and that's not sustainable. And there's people in poverty, they really deserve to live a better life, so we need to change that. By giving them skills, opportunity, by bringing business here. And instead what we're seeing is like an exodus of business and an exodus of people. Oh, because I'm trying to figure out why everybody's not a Republican. You know, because it was the party of freedom. Abraham Lincoln, right? It was the Republican Party that voted to make all the African Americans citizens of the United States. They also pushed, get this, to give every slave family 2 acres and a mule initially. And that was banned. That was vetoed by the Democrats. They gave African Americans the right to vote. In the 1800s, did you know this? That all the Republican governors gave women the right to vote in the 1800s. It wasn't until 1920 that women across the United States got the right to vote. These are all Republican platforms. And even like Frederick Douglass, if you ever read his stuff, it's amazing. He said, you know, why it's the party of freedom and liberty, so why not? You know, and I don't think that's broadcast enough. And so my family, coming from a situation where they saw Poland becoming sandwiched between Nazi Germany and Russia and the Bolsheviks, you know, and the communists at the time. So Stalin and Hitler, right? Then it was completely communist. So we hear all these stories and firsthand knowledge of that, and to see what it does to people and families. If people are really aware of the murderous nature of that kind of government, or the enslavement of people's spirits and minds, there's no way you could even get close to it if you're aware of it. So those things, you know, growing up with that and those things, that's what kind of made me join the Republican Party, because for my life, all the Democrats seem to be doing was taken away. And the media has played a different role. They've kind of skewed the actual truth. And then you get Washington and you see there are people who seem to be on the same party even though they're on both sides. The uniparty. And they was like, what are you doing with our money? What are you doing? You know? So I don't go out there and just say, I'm Republican, vote for me. What I saw this year in the city with the virus, I see a lot of desperate people. I mean, they come through my office. I see people that won't leave their house. I have patients that have not left their house since March. They get everything delivered. They're petrified. They're not living. And I just see a lot of depression and hysteria, and I wanted to use my campaign to reverse that. You know, win or lose, let's start something good. Let's have some fun with it. Let's get a message out that we're all a community. It's not like, oh, plus the division of, you know, right versus left. There's just too much of that out there, and I just don't like to see that in the city either. So my campaign wasn't about being a Republican. It was about doing something nice for your neighbors, coming together as a neighborhood, doing like challenges that would lift people up. So, you know, love your neighbor. And it was called the Show Big Love in Small Ways Challenge, because you could do little things that would make a difference. And so that's how I first approached it. I went out and said, hey, I'm running for city council. We're doing this challenge. I really appreciate if you would post to our site, or if you would do this, or because it's about raising spirits. It's about reversing the negativity out there, about reversing the depression, the gloom, the fear. I just didn't want that, and I thought we needed to come together. So that was my campaign. Oh, that's good. Because there's so much that the city has to deal with right now, and I think the most important thing right now is getting people back on their feet. You know, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of wants. The long-term plan of the city, if you have a chance to read it, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's what everybody wants. You know, yeah, we want green, we want nice bike paths, we want walk spaces, we want parks. We want things family-friendly, of course. And it's just beautiful the way it's all worded. The thing is, you have to go from A to B, and you have to get there. But to get there, we got to get on our feet first. And so to reopen businesses and get kids back to school safely is probably the first thing we need to do. And then we need to examine our budget and see where's all the money coming from and who needs help the most. You know, you can't let people sink. We got to right the ship before we can deal with take on more passengers, or right the ship before we can go anywhere. After a while, you kind of give up. You feel like you don't have a voice. I know when they were building the new high school, there were some concerns. Nobody wanted to see that nice old lady moved. You know, we didn't think it was ethical. But then after a while, you feel like you can go to meetings, you can speak up, but nobody listens. And that seems to be the general consensus if something's happening in town. I went to a couple city council meetings for things that really concerned me, and took off from work to go there, and showed up, and they said, oh, we're not accepting any discussion on this topic tonight. We're going to vote on it, but we're not accepting. And it was the first time you heard about that topic. So that kind of disappoints me, is when people show up and they really want to exercise their voice, that they can't, or it's just totally ignored. And I'm sure there's like reasons for it that the average citizen doesn't know or is not aware of, but that's what you feel. And yeah, overall, I think what concerns a lot of people are the taxes keep going up, and jobs keep going out, and there's a big encroachment of JMU on the residential areas. They keep buying up more, so that leaves less living space for the rest of us too. So that's a state issue. The city doesn't have any input in that; they can't. But that would be something that maybe we could work on with the state too. Well, I'm only one person, right? A lot of people are too busy working to actually like get on the ground and do things. And there's like financial is another one. If you're going to like do big campaigns, like if I were to do radio for 8 weeks, it was $22,000. To do a film like this, it was $500 a pop for 15 seconds. That was just to film it. That wasn't to put it on the air. So we figured we'd just have a movement and get it out there by word of mouth and see if people had a good time with it. But a lot of the obstacles are just that people are too busy to go out. And then the other thing is the virus. People are scared, so they don't want to talk to you. So I just leave things on their door. You know, I write them a little note, sorry, missed you, stick it in their door. If they want to talk to me, great, but I don't like knock. I just leave it because they're too afraid. And yeah, I respect that. That's a good question. Well, I think most of the students like Harrisonburg the way it was and the way it, you know, when they moved here, one of the reasons a lot of people choose Harrisonburg is because of the town, not just JMU. They see the surroundings, they see the opportunity, they see the social life, and what a safe small town it is with availability to do different things and the proximity to other big cities. So if they want to go someplace else and get a different experience, they can, but still be here. I think if they want to keep the city vibrant and healthy, they need some leadership that will help it be sustainable. And I'm pretty creative with working within a budget. I mean, I've had employees, I've owned businesses, I've worked in industry, and you know how to work within a budget. And you also look for creative solutions. So it's not just let's throw money at something, let's find out what the problem is, fix the problem, and then the rest of it will fix itself. So I'd like to keep Harrisonburg a really nice town. I'd like to keep it thriving. I'd like downtown to be the way it was. So I was on one of the original, on the Downtown Renaissance Committee, not hired, but a volunteer, way back in the day when Eddie Bumbaugh started it, and he did a great job. And we saw the city go from a sleepy town to what you have downtown now, and Andrea's doing a really great job at trying to keep it that way, but with the virus and things closed, it's hard. And I just hate to see the businesses down there close and the opportunity for, like, you know, a social life close. Also, Harrisonburg would be a really good place for innovation. And having the JMU students here, giving them opportunities to open businesses, making it business friendly, you know, having it like an incubating hub, that would be something that's worthwhile protecting. And that would be one of my jobs too.